Wow, how do you follow that? That's really kind of a, yeah, I gotta shave my head. Wow, very nice. Tis a puzzlement. Good morning. My name is Ken Claiborne, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of this congregation. Welcome to all of you. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual spiritual and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you'd like to learn more about this fellowship, please take a look at our website at uufe.org and join us after the service for our coffee hour. For the listening enjoyment of all, we ask that at this time you please turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate. Also, if you need hearing support, please ask for help at the sound desk. I think we have 2 new hearing units that are functional. Yes, I have a thumbs up on that, so, which is good. A few announcements here. The Feasters group will meet on Wednesday at 11:30 at Hoppers on West Pike Street in Goshen for their monthly luncheon. All are welcome, but please let Mary Adams know by tomorrow if you're planning to attend so that she may arrange for seating. A reminder that the second discussion meeting for the UUA's Article 2 changes will be next Saturday at 10 a.m. Reverend Jimmy Clifton has had a difficult time after bypass surgery, but he wants to thank everyone for the calls, texts, emails, and cards offering support and well wishes. His physical address is posted on the bulletin board beside the kitchen door. He will come visit us when he is more fully recovered. A reminder for everyone wishing to place a donation on the mitten tree. The mitten tree will be emptied of all the donations after the Christmas Eve service on December 24th, and they'll be taken and distributed. Thank you all. Pam's got her hand up.
I'm sorry,
Rich Hackle. Rich Hackle is home. We did not know that.
Oh, yeah, he's home.
Okay, very good, very good. That's good to hear.
We ring the gong 3 times, once for those who are here now, once for those who came before us and made a place for us, that's backwards, and once for those who will come after us and build on the dream. Will you read with me now the unison covenant as printed in the order of service? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to dwell together. This is our covenant. We light the candle this morning to acknowledge our importance in the puzzle of life. No piece of this puzzle for each one of us is more important than any other. Let us understand that each one of us is a part of the whole, and we are missed when we don't contribute in life or reveal ourselves to others. May we learn to rely on one another to make our own puzzles complete. I'm sorry, kids, I didn't have it in the order of service, but you can leave now, and they've already gone. Okay. To follow in Jimmy's footsteps, and soon he'll be back. How do you make a puzzle happy? Peace offering. Why did the puzzle go to therapy? It couldn't find its missing piece of mind. Those weren't real funny, but that's the best the internet could offer. My metaphor this morning about life's puzzle centers around the pieces of our puzzle that involves relationships. It may take a lifetime to complete one piece. How is your life's puzzle coming together? This past Veterans Day saw another piece of my life's puzzle come together. It was the summer of 1963. I was just a young punk right out of school and starting my continuing education at IUSB. I worked nights at Associated Truck Lines in South Bend as a billing clerk, where the only requirement was to be proficient on the keyboard to operate the billing machine. This job earned me a few bucks for school. During the days, part-time, I helped out a gentleman in his auto mechanic shop a few hours a week. I don't even know if he even paid me. Pulling and installing generators, carburetors, and starters on what now are classic cars. It was in 1963 that I was driving a cream puff 1954 Buick Special, and I noticed a sign on a company called Specialized Services. They installed car stereo systems. I passed this garage on my way to IUSB, and it was located on Monroe Street in South Bend, where the current post office is. That's how my relationship with George Murat started. A kid looking for an accessory for his car, going to school, still undecided exactly what he was going to do in life. That's how I wanted to end that sentence. Okay, fast forward 60 years. Veterans Day 2023, November 11th. I will soon be 79 and George is now 85. It was in George's garage that I was under the hood of a car when George hollered to me, "They killed President Kennedy." That's another whole story in itself. I told Karen I wanted her to meet an important person in my life, and she agreed. What choice really did she have? We arrived at the Veterans Honor Park in South Bend, located at the entrance of the South Bend Airport. We walked into the museum at about 10:30. There began 2 hours of absolute pleasure in laughing, retelling old stories. George is a great storyteller, and with Karen included, she now shares my relationship with George. When I met George, he was just a young guy with a new business and some lifetime responsibilities ahead of him. He had just lost an older brother, Renee, in an airplane accident, and George had made a promise to Renee in case anything ever happened to him, please take care of Mom and Dad. They were a poor family, and all George knew was cars, airplanes, and boats. But he was making a living now as a mechanic in a business his brother had started. Renee was a risk taker and was killed in one of the experimental aircraft he had made. George had the reputation of being a mechanical genius, and could fix anything with a motor in it. George and I could really be called the odd couple. Completely opposite on political views, not even close when it comes to religious habits and attitudes. I'm a conscientious objector, and he has very strong military ties, even though he never served. He had a girlfriend, and he said he would never marry. And I could not understand that, because me getting to know a girl, I had to make some kind of a commitment. But you want to hear some irony? We saw Dinah on the 11th. So yes, they're still together, never married. But I've had 3 wives. So anyway, needless to say, I have kept in touch with George over the years, and I want to end these comments simply by saying that as unexpected and accidental as our relationship started, Saturday the 11th brought our relationship full circle. On Friday, November 10th, I left a voicemail for George, asking him if he still had services for veterans at the museum on Veterans Day. I would like to come and to participate and to visit him. 4 hours later, he called me back and said, "Steve, your voicemail was the best thing that happened to me today. I would love to see you, and you don't have to, we don't do services anymore, but we open at 10 o'clock. This wasn't like George. He's rougher on the edges and never shows emotion. You understand what I'm saying? Unless he was kidding, but I don't think so. After our wonderful visit, I got another phone call from George about 7 p.m. that night. He said, "Steve, I'm calling you for 2 reasons. First, and not to sound too schmushy, I just want to thank you again for visiting me and introducing me to your lovely wife. It made my day. And second, I wanted to try the number you gave me to see if it was any good. And if it wasn't, I would know that you didn't want to hear from me again." George has had my correct number for 60 years. So that's George. What a lifelong friend. This song that I picked, number 8, first of all, it's in a minor. I like minor key songs. But it's the words does fit into a puzzle if you work them right on what am I, who am I, shape our art, etc. So if you are willing and able, stand and please sing number 8. Lizzie's going to play it through once, all the way through for an introduction, and then we'll sing it. Stand.
The fourth Sunday of each month is when we recognize the joys and sorrows of our greater community, whether from the other side of the county or the other side of the hemisphere. This allows us to become more aware and maintain awareness of the world that we are charged to take care of. So if there is an event from near or far that you would like to bring to our mutual awareness, please speak it briefly from your seat and I'll repeat it into the mic. Please do keep it brief, and if you have questions about what someone has brought, please speak to them after the service. We all know about the war in the Middle East, and hopefully we know that there has been a ceasefire and the releasing of some hostages from both sides. More of that is to come.
Let us not forget about Ukraine as well. We don't hear about it anymore because Israel too. And they don't have this lot.
Absolutely. Remembering Ukraine.
Remembering the passing of former Mrs. Carter.
The passing of Rosalind Carter, the former First Lady.
Hey, Julianne, can you put the mic up to your mouth?
I was getting some feedback. Oh, this is better. Remembering the passing of Rosalind Carter, former First Lady. All of these events from around the world affect us, even if indirectly, because they affect the world we live in.
Stand by. She's got the pulpit right here. Oh, she's got the pulpit.
She's got the pulpit mic.
If you want to move.
Pick up the other one.
What?
Pick up the other mic on the table.
You never talk straight to me, it's all puzzles to me. There's sense in what you talk about, I can never see. If you don't want me to spend your life with, go find someone new. 'Cause I know there's so many better girls than you. Puzzles hanging on my mind now, puzzles, puzzles on my mind. In my mind, that's all I find. In my mind. Life puzzles, I will never know which way to go straight. Love, war, people arguing, how can they know what to hate? Ever since I began thinking, I wondered why things were so. No matter how hard I contemplate, puzzles will never go. Puzzles hanging on my mind now, puzzles, puzzles in my mind. That's all I find in my mind. Oh, puzzles.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I am very grateful for our Mennonite connection. Last week we had Andrea here, and I think that was her second time this year, and this is your second or third time this year, right, Carolyn, I think? Well, fourth, okay. So we're very grateful that Carolyn was able to come back and join us again, Reverend Carolyn Hunt from Mennonite Prairie Street Mennonite Church. We look forward to your comments on puzzles.
So the title of my sermon is actually puzzled, like the adjective, because I was puzzled. So, but it comes from doing puzzles. So last year, Pastor Izzy and Weta, friends of yours, loaned us a colorful 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. And this is the picture from the box. And this summer, after looking at it for months on the shelf, I got it down and opened the box. And I quickly got absorbed in assembling the edges. I was really surprised that my sons, aged 14, 17, and 20, paused to watch, and they joined in here and there. We have loved doing puzzles at other people's houses, but we have dogs and cats, and we had little kids for a long time, so we've rarely put one together in our own home. The next evening, I looked around the table. I had one son seated on my left, another one was across the table, and that teen's girlfriend was seated next to him, and we were all quietly putting pieces together. A calm had settled over the room, and I realized I was so content. We finished that puzzle in less than 72 hours. Success. So I went to Goodwill. I'm going to get more puzzles. This is good. There was a wide variety of 100-piece puzzles at Goodwill. There were many 1,000-piece puzzles and nothing in between. The one that caught my eye depicted Tower Bridge in London. I thought, oh, that looks familiar. That looks like the version of London I remember from college days. My children's sarcastic questions were right on target. What is this from? The 1980s? Opening the box revealed this puzzle was new in package. The pieces were still sealed in their factory plastic bag, and that cardboard had never been opened. I looked forward to a few pleasant, calm evenings of puzzle working. And then our experience with this puzzle was completely different. We kept it on the dining room table, trying to work it for over 3 months. Working at it in fits and starts, and I had to cover it up with a folding cardboard mat. Those of you who sew or used to sew, do you remember the folding cardboard things you could spread out on your bed or the floor to cut your fabric? We have one of those for the table so it doesn't get scratched, but we just had to put it over the puzzle every day so that we could do homework and have meals. And this puzzle taught us several life lessons. Terry is shocked that I had it out for 3 months. He's like, oh. Number one, the colors on the puzzle pieces were not the same colors visible in the photo on the box. The box photo was faded, as if it sat on a shop window or on somebody's shelf for decades. Our expectations did not match the 1,000 very real pieces that were on the table. This image that was supposed to help us sometimes led us astray, probably like our recollections through rose-colored glasses can shape our thoughts into expectations that will never square with real-life experience. Second lesson. A third of the pieces were sky, half were water, and there were many fine gradations of blue and gray. Hundreds of pieces up there at the top were just sky, completely only sky, without any bit of a roof or a flag or a church spire to give us any clue where they went. We had to learn to distinguish carefully between things we would normally not pay attention to. Does this look like the light brown of the water close to the river's edge, or is it that pinky light brown of the tower stonework in shadow? Is this blue-gray a cloudy sky, or a sunny bit of water? Is that glint of white on this piece from the sun coming through my dining room window, or a spot of glare from the puzzle's original photo? Sometimes I would get up and move my body to the other side of the table, or stand up or sit down, bring over the reading lamp, and very small changes in location and lighting drastically changed my perspective. More than once, the act of putting a piece into place changed my visual perception of that piece. As in, this piece looks like the right shape for that spot, but it doesn't have the tiny bit of blue on the edge that needs to go with that bridge railing, so it probably doesn't go there. But when I tried the piece anyway, suddenly that little piece of blue was visible. You could take it out, put it back in, seriously. This was even with my new glasses. It astonished me. Lesson number 3, many pieces fit in more than one place. Conversely, 4 or 5 pieces would seem to fit equally well in one spot, as if the creator of the cutting machine for this puzzle had a limited number of shapes to use. Yet other areas of the puzzle had wacky shaped pieces that reminded me of the dough left on your counter after kids used cookie cutters. It was maddening, and I got really tired of hearing my number 2 son blame this situation on inferior 80s technology. After all, I was created with 60s technology and educated in the 80s. Lots of things I learned in the 80s are still relevant. I told him not everything in life will be as clear-cut as the output of a 21st century CNC machine or a high-resolution digital photo. We found we could not rely solely on the shape of the pieces to complete the puzzle. We also had to be attentive to the images on each of the pieces. I don't know if you can see it, is a little glary there, but there was this bridge, and then there's the kind of the city in the background, and there's like houses and factories, and there's all these little windows, and things would seem to fit, but hours or days later we would realize the pieces physically fit, but the fine details of the images on them did not match up. Painstaking repair work was needed. This made me think about the many complicated social, educational, health, and economic challenges in US society. A new initiative may appear to fix a certain situation until we look more closely. The 4th thing that fascinated me was how each person reacted differently to facing an overwhelming task, especially since this was clearly a non-essential one. There were many ways of problem solving. Personally, I like to assemble the edges of the puzzle first, and that's how I taught my kids to do it. But we had different people who came over to the house, and I would always invite them to sit down and help us. And these friends and loved ones, visitors, had alternate strategies. Sometimes we argued over custody of the different pieces. Well, I want this because it has a straight edge. Oh, well, I was collecting all the pieces of this color in one place because they must go together. We had to compromise. Personality types played a role too. Some of us love processes that are complex and can be broken down into lots of different steps. And we're very happy to line up dozens of pieces in rows and systematically try them one at a time until that spot you could not fill is complete. Other people break out in hives at the mere thought. My youngest son sat down the first day, tried to fit together a few random pairs of pieces, and declared, "This is impossible. I'm not doing this." He eventually came back another day. Other sons were happy to work for an hour or so until their level of frustration outpaced the dopamine rewards of finding pieces that fit. As the weeks passed, sometimes the boys would sit down and work on the puzzle just because they saw it was important to me to complete it, even if detail-oriented tasks weren't their favorite things to do. Maybe they just wanted the dining room table back. Whichever it is, I saw the time they spent with me as a gift of love. One evening, my 20-year-old made a great sacrifice of love. Having better vision than I do, he realized that in one section of very murky river water, I had made several mistakes. Pieces I thought meshed together did not when you looked at them closely. He noticed this after I'd gone to bed, and the next morning, that part of the puzzle looked remarkably different. He told me he had spent over an hour fixing that area, taking out several pieces and refitting the ones that belonged there. This is the young man who despises concrete sequential processes such as picking things up and putting them away. My heart melted. He took on that hard task he didn't have to do and disliked very much as a kindness to me. He leveled up in adulting that day, and I hope that he'll take that life lesson with him. Lesson number 5. There is joy in attempting and completing a hard task together. Except for BC calculus homework, most of our day-to-day tasks aren't hard, just repetitive. Sweeping, laundry, wiping the counters, paying the bills, or changing diapers. Once in a while, we might do something difficult together, take an extra long bike ride, hike up a big sand dune at Lake Michigan, clean up the garden before winter. But a lot of times, even when people are in the same house or the same room, we are engaged in separate solo activities. Watching TV, looking at a streaming device, the teenagers are on Snapchat. Working this puzzle gave us something to do together at the table where we sat close and we faced one another. There's a chance we might talk to each other. Gentle ribbing occurs. Basically, we are piecing together relationships as we assemble the puzzle over time. By the third month of this puzzle being on our dining room table, 2 things became obvious. First, we might never finish it. This was very surprising to me. From the beginning, I was certain that we would eventually complete the puzzle. We had always succeeded at puzzles before. When questioned by skeptical teens, my consistent reply was, I'm not going to let this thing beat me. But then that's my attitude toward most things, right, Annette? Second, it was impeding our family life. We either ate meals on an unfolded, paint-stained cardboard pad, or I threw a tablecloth over everything, and that just made more laundry. The cats were drawn to the puzzle since we paid so much attention to it, and they were constantly knocking pieces off the table or jumping off, moving completed sections out of alignment. The incomplete task began taunting me. One day, one of my kids asked, "What are we going to do with this when we finish it?" That is, would we redonate it to the thrift shop, what we'd usually do, subjecting some other unsuspecting family to months of frustration? I don't think I can in good conscience give it to someone else, I said. Will we throw it away? Not on your tin type. Make crafts out of it? Or compost? I decided the best solution might be to light the whole thing on fire. Because what I had noticed in the early days of November is that while we had about the same number of pieces left as there were open spots in the picture, increasingly the empty spots were not shaped like any of the remaining puzzle pieces. Okay, how can that happen? We would go over the completed areas looking for any gaps that indicated we'd made a mistake and settled for something that almost fit. But even when we corrected those, the last 24 pieces of blue sky did not fit anywhere. I concluded that earlier on we had placed some pieces incorrectly, and those mistakes affected the placement of other pieces down the line. When we had large open spaces in the puzzle, when there were still big blank areas, those mistakes were not apparent to us. And we placed many connecting pieces correctly after those early errors, so our goof-ups just blended in. But as the picture grew more complete, the gaps left in it did not match up with the real-life puzzle pieces. We had made thousands of decisions in assembling this 1,000-piece puzzle. Which ones were the wrong decisions? How could we make sense of what remained on the table? And that was lesson number 6. Turning this problem over in my mind, I began to wonder if our complex societal ills aren't a bit like this puzzle. We see the gaps on our table: child poverty, insufficient funding for public education, not enough housing, unsafe housing, lack of skilled workers for employers to hire, health outcomes dependent on your income. Pick any one of those challenges. What we see as the problem is the empty space left in a puzzle after decades of previous decisions. Very likely, our society or our chosen decision makers thought that the decisions they made were the right puzzle pieces to place at the time. And they looked right for a long time, but we've ended up with gaps that don't match the pieces available. I think this is true in hiring decisions and leadership situations too. If person after person chosen to fill a role does not meet expectations, is it more likely that all of them are fatally flawed people, or that the rubric they are being judged by is humanly impossible to fulfill? Is it based on decades or centuries of previous assumptions about what was necessary or important? This is why sometimes burn it all down seems like a viable option. Chuck the whole jigsaw puzzle into the fire. Whether your opponent is patriarchy, the school-to-prison pipeline, capitalism, whatever, the hard work to disassemble all those pieces and start over again is overwhelming, paralyzing. There are times I almost think I am not sure of what I absolutely know. Very often find confusion in conclusion I concluded long ago. We are in the same boat as the king, played by Yul Brynner. Maybe all we can do is what his character did. No matter what we think, we go on living life day to day. Whatever manifestation of the divine or first principles we use to organize our lives, we rely on that, even when we are convinced life is a puzzlement. The king declared he would go on being a husband and a father and a leader with Buddha to show him the way. Lately, I have been depending on these words from Maya Angelou. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. In this season of reflection, as the days are short and the calendar year draws to a close, may we resolve to know better and do better in whatever small piece of life you choose as a gift to each other. We can always try again. And that's what I decided about the Tower Bridge puzzle. I took all the little pieces of blue sky and put them in a zip-top bag. I carefully separated the rest of the puzzle into big chunks without taking them apart and stacked them between sheets of paper in the puzzle box. My high school senior asked, "Are you going to do it again someday?" That's the plan. I'll keep trying until I get it right. May it be so in this faith community, in our city, and in our world. Amen. I was surprised because I didn't realize, I'm a short person, so when I stand up, it's not that much difference, but sitting down, like you're looking at something on the table, right? You're looking at that and you think, oh, okay, well, the piece I'm looking for is about this big on this side. And then when you stand up and lean over it, no, it's like, it's much, it's much wider. So probably putting ourselves in different places than our usual place that we park our keister is a good thing. So. Yeah, it's working.
I often think about those problems, the school to jail pipeline, all that stuff. And I get very frustrated, and I want to burn the whole thing down, start over. And I know that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And so then I think, if there's just one atom that I could move a micro bit and make something better, then I need to do that, even if it's just a tiny little piece of something that's better.
Yeah. Or one administrator or one school board member that you invite them to get up and, look at the problem from a different angle. Yeah. Whatever particular situation is.
Well, that is very wonderful, Oksana, but I'm going to veer off to, we have a puzzle right now on the table in the basement. And Pam Wycliffe also, that was 1,500
Oh my
pieces.
goodness.
I finally, after I had gotten pretty frustrated, realized I don't even have a table big enough to hold it.
Uh-huh.
But I go downstairs and I see, we have a tablecloth over it because of Cat.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to work on it again after hearing what you had to say, because I view it as a job.
Oh.
And that is what ruined it for me. I'd go downstairs and think, oh, I have to do the laundry, and I have to dust, and I have to do that puzzle.
Joan, light it all on fire. Come on.
I know. No. Yeah. Now I'm gonna look at it in a meditative sort of way, and an accomplishment and joy in putting the few pieces together. So thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. And I did begin to look at it as a reward. Like, oh, well, when I'm done with the stuff I have to do, I could sit here for an hour and put on the music I love from high school in the 80s, and I can just do this, and yeah, it's a treat.
Thank you very much for this. This has been great. And I am a puzzler.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one of those open up things to put on top of the puzzle,
Uh-huh.
just like you do. And I did the same thing.
Yep.
And I've had puzzles up for longer than 3 months.
Yeah.
But it was also a time, I have a granddaughter who was having some difficulties, and she's very quiet. And she's a very good with puzzles. And we spent a lot of time conversing.
Yep.
And it was a wonderful space for us
Yeah.
in getting together and being able to talk to one another.
Yeah. And
So-
something about keeping our hands busy, not just adolescents, but I have a lot of adolescents. So teenagers, they like if their bodies are moving, then their mouth sometimes will
Yeah.
start moving, and you can communicate.
And you don't have to make eye contact.
That's true.
sometimes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can talk without looking at one another.
Yeah.
And she is a teenager, so that's that.
Yeah.
And it was a blessing to
Good.
have.
I've learned it's real easy to give up on things,
Yeah.
and puzzles can be very challenging. I have a table that there's almost always a puzzle on it, either finished after working days and weeks or whatever. I had the hardest puzzle I did was a Monet puzzle. It was like the sky. It had all this flooring, and I wanted to give up on that so much, but I said, no, I'm not going to. And I found I had to sit, I kind of sat on the back edge of the chair like this because you got to look down on it.
Yeah.
And I found if I didn't spend almost 2 hours on it, I didn't progress.
Oh.
And finally I did it. But last evening, I put another 1,000-piece puzzle out.
Uh-huh.
And got started on, my table isn't big enough to get all the pieces out.
Yeah.
So I got to bring another table in to
Yeah.
do it, so I can just find the edges.
Yeah, good.
But
Oh.
I find puzzles to be rewarding when you finish them.
Yeah.
And it's really a joy.
2 more comments, Laura and Lorna.
I grew up in a family that every winter we did puzzles. I have critters that are not puzzle friendly, so I haven't done one in a long time. But, I mean, puzzles are good for your brain.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's incredibly important, you know, neural connections that are made doing puzzles. And they can teach us things about perseverance and determination and frustration, you know. And the last puzzle I did was a couple years ago. My daughter had given me a very complex 1,000-piece puzzle. I did it by myself. And I was so overjoyed when I finally finished it that I glued it together and hung it on my wall.
Yeah.
Lorna?
Speaking to the idea that some puzzle pieces that we put what we think is in its proper place, and then later discover that somehow that was a mistake, and we don't remember where that particular
Yes.
piece is in order to correct it,
Yeah.
is very much like how some marriages fall apart. We think the puzzle piece is the correct one at the time, and after we spend years or decades, we realize that puzzle piece wasn't really meant to go there. And yet, how do you correct it?
Yeah. When you've built other things
When you've built
onto it
other
that-
things onto it.
that were good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, for that metaphor, it's you make good where you're planted.
Thank you for your feedback, everybody. Thank you, Carolyn. Our last hymn is number 6, and if you would remember, remain standing for the benediction, and then you can sit for the postlude. But stand if you're willing and able and sing number 6, just as long as I have breath.
Receive the benediction. Go in peace, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know. The blessing of truth be upon us, the power of love direct us and sustain us, and may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again. Amen.
It's a puzzle of me. It's a puzzle of me. A piece for my heart, no piece for my brain. My math teacher says I'm going insane. A piece for the days when I'm sad. A piece for the days when I'm glad. A piece for my songs, my blood is on fire. A piece for passion, just on my desire. A piece for sunrise, a piece for dream. I use my energy to fly and scream. It's a puzzle of me. It's a puzzle of me. It's my way of living. I want to be free. It's a puzzle of me. Sometimes I'm weak, sometimes I'm strong. What is true? What is wrong? A piece for my silence, a piece for my noise. I lost my feelings, I got always a choice. A piece for my hopes, a piece for my tears. Your offensive shit don't ring in my ears. A piece for my future, a shapeless form. A piece for my past, they call me so. Take my hand and play like jam. Connect all my pieces, connect what I am. Take my hand, I play like jam. Connect all my pieces, connect what I am. A piece for losers, a piece for the last. This word is a trap, I'm in the cast. Evolution, revolution, a piece for a change. I don't need violence for my revenge. A piece for love, a piece for fight. My hate for bully, a piece for rights. The pain of the word is really too much. A piece for my anger, I never shut up. It's a puzzle of me. It's a puzzle of me. It's my way of living. I want to be free. It's a